December 1st, I started at Roy's Bellevue Nissan, and I didn't sell a car like you're talking about for 16 days. I blanked.
Wow.
And I'm used to coming home every night. My wife is like, how many cars did you sell today? It might be one, might be two, but it's usually always one.
Yeah.
And to your point, that was that moment for me. It was gut check time. I literally went and took a signature loan out for $2,500 to cover Christmas and my bills. I ended up selling 17 cars the last half of that month, and I was okay. And that was the only bad month I ever had from a sales standpoint in the car business.
Was that at that point in life that you were like, oh yeah, I want to do this?
Yes, it was at that point in life. It was like literally, it was so freeing to me because I was literally like, I can move anywhere in the country and live there and support my family because I could sell cars and I'm good at it.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York's Middle Tennessee, it says here.
That's right.
Sounds riveting.
It is.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
Yes, thank you, Matt Wilson. Check his podcast out. He's the big voice guy for this program. His podcast is the Mostly Marketing Podcast, where I may have borrowed a part of his name for mine. Check him out, Mostly Marketing with Matt Wilson. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and have real conversations that meander about the challenges, the wins, the realities of just being in the fight, man, every single day. This is an audio and video podcast. You can check us out at MMTBP.com, MMTBP.com. Find us, follow us, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Leave us a review. Even if it's like a 3.5, 4-star review, I'm okay with that. If you're compelled to leave like a 1 or 2-star review, talk to me first. Let me, try and save face a bit. Otherwise, knock yourself out. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and It'sYourShow.co, where you can get podcasts like this. If you have a desire to start a podcast, let's talk. And today, if you're in a business, you hear me talk about culture a lot, and I'm really excited for our guest today because he was one of the people who taught me how to do it right. Because I think we run into people all throughout our lives professionally that show us both ways, the way to do it and the way not to do it. So this particular gentleman I haven't seen in about 10 years since the last time we worked together in the car business. We go back a long way into the radio industry because I did a lot of their content creation, as it's come to be known now, video, audio, radio commercials, all that stuff. I'm just going to say it, man. Welcome to the show, Mr. Steve Brink. It's good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Jim.
I know a lot of people are going to be excited to see and hear you on this show because
you're too kind.
You've really touched a lot of lives in a positive way.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
For what it's worth,
Thank you.
Do you need some tissues or anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
But seriously, that was one of the things that, getting to know you in the radio business. I came here in 2005. I believe we started working together on an active basis, 1-to-1, 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. And we've always had a really good relationship when it came to you guys coming in and doing commercials. You had different ideas you wanted to flesh out. You had just a rocking and rolling culture there at the store. You were the general manager of a Honda store here locally known as Crest Honda.
Yep.
You were working under the tutelage of Mr. Brian Palmer.
Great man, yep.
Great man. Got to see him back in 2016 at Deerfield Beach Toyota.
Yeah, he retired
recently.
This last year.
Yeah.
This year. Yeah.
You guys are like old school car guys, but at some point you both figured out how to culture the thing, because the car business doesn't exactly have a stellar reputation in general, especially with the people who work in it. It is a really backstabbing dog-eat-dog culture.
Yeah.
And you were able to get people to swim with the same ferocity in the same direction because you were a guy that became a manager who they'd take a bullet for. Right.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's nice of you to say that. But, I think the key is just, surround yourself with good people, right? At the end of the day, it's 4 walls and a roof.
Right.
It's the people you fill it with. And that's true for any business. And, we were just really lucky to be able to attract and retain good people.
Right.
And, I think nobody wants to when your profession, people say they'd rather have a tooth pulled at the dentist than buy a car, right? And that's where you're making your living. The car business was good to me. It was good to my family, a lot of hours, but a lot of great people. I don't think anybody wants to be in a profession that's looked at that way.
Right.
And, it was just, let's do it the right way. Brian was obviously a great mentor to me.
Right.
I was very blessed to have that man in my life at a young age, and kind of an example there's a right way to do this.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate for that.
Well, you started out back, as a veteran.
Yeah.
Well, you are a veteran now, but back in the day, you came out of high school and went right into the Navy, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Does that have a lot? Did that feed into your life in terms of how to create a culture? Because you're going into a very military, which you got to go through boot camp, and get broken down to be built back up to a certain extent.
Yeah,
and did that kind of play into it? There are businesses that can be done, and I see being done that way, but it's the loss of focus and vision of the manager's part is the fact that all these people don't need to stay here if you're going to treat them that way.
Yeah.
They have a choice.
Yeah.
In the military, you can't leave.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to sit there and take it.
Yeah. I don't know how good I was for the Navy, but the Navy was extraordinarily good for me.
Right.
And it changed my life, and the Navy's good at taking a young kid that's an idiot, that makes mistakes and kind of jerking a knot in their butt. And, when you stand in front of the captain and you're in trouble, and I got to do that on a few different occasions, they do the best job I've ever seen from a leadership standpoint of tearing somebody down at the beginning of that meeting. And then you literally feel like you're like the lowest form of human life.
Yeah.
And then when they send you back out, you would take a bullet for that guy. They build you back up. And it's kind of an extreme example of that hit 'em, hug 'em concept, if you will.
Well, it definitely, if you carry that through and you have that, because in the military, you have to have that because it's life or death. It really is.
Yeah. It's like I was on an aircraft carrier with an F-14 squadron, so it's not like I was getting shot at or,
You're still a target.
Well, I understand, but I think we had one real general quarters, and that wasn't even a real general quarters. It was a French helicopter was flying out to the ship. So it was never like I was in necessarily harm's way other than maybe falling off the flight deck or something. Right. But it was just, but you're right. What those guys do every day for our country, hats off to them. Certainly a lot of them in harm's way.
Right.
Fortunately, I wasn't in that position. But you got to follow orders. It's got to be done the right way. And that's the other thing I think that the military does. I was an 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, 21-year-olds. And they're giving you all this responsibility, to your point, that is like, there's not a lot of kids coming out of high school that aren't in the military that are getting that kind of responsibility, in my opinion, today.
Unless I could join the military, I guess.
Well, it was the right move for me at that time, for sure. I needed that.
It's funny because you have that voice, and it's I've a flood of memories happening right now. Such an iconic, notable voice, especially that when you want the best, come to Crest. What would you call it? The John Madden.
Yes, yeah, I guess, yeah,
Right.
Yeah. No, but you have the voice.
Yeah, thank you.
And you were always, such a huge part of our commercials. I can't tell you how many times I walked into your studio with a script that I'd like cobbled together because we had to do radio spots, right? And then, the genius always says in the editing, but it was also in your case in fleshing that out and like coming up with an idea that had good synergy and kind of represented who we wanted to be as a company and the message we wanted to put out there in the marketplace.
Well, a lot of that, the general managers in that business, not only taking on the obligation, the risk of the business, it's almost like being a minority partner in a business. When you're a general manager, you're a dealer operator that's running an operation that big.
Yeah.
That is, it's no hard, it's not a responsibility you can just kind of shirk off. You're also taking on the obligation and duty of being almost the face of the dealership, which is in this case what you were. And the voice. Yeah, and a publicly owned company like Sonic, that's definitely right. Yeah. You really are, because they don't really know anybody else local other than maybe the other dealer operators and people that are in the market representing those other stores. But after I came on board, let's see, we were going through, I talk about the 40-year hit when someone turns 40, probably 3 years on one side, 3 years on the other side. there's typically a massive life shift. Of all the people I've talked to over the years, that seems to be right in that area where they're ending a career, getting into another one. Certainly was the case with me, where I was getting out of the radio business where I was the man, and then getting into something completely unfamiliar where it was a meritocracy. I was responsible for everything that I had to bring to the table for my family. And I remember I told this story years ago where you sat me down and I was just having one of those days. There was one time at Crest Honda, I had about a 2-week dry spell, which was hellacious.
Those are fun, right?
No, totally
a little
fun.
stressful.
Yeah, how am I going to make my mortgage payment this month? So I went to you and I said, dude, I don't know. I don't think I made the right decision. And you just sat there and you listened to me for about 5 minutes, which was a funny number. And then you look straight at me and go, so what the F are you going to do about it? And I'm going, yeah. Good talk. That's what I needed to hear. And that was about it.
Well, a lot of times in life, that's what we all need to hear, right? I mean, we're looking for somebody else kind of to solve it for us, right? But no.
That was a boot in the butt, man.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. I knew what you were getting at. I'm not blaming you for it at all, but it was something I needed to hear. Well, man up and go make it happen.
You got to, because nobody's going to do it for you, right? Like, I mean, that's life, right? I mean, look at you. You left what you were doing. You're king of radio, and now you're doing this, and you had to go out and build your own brand. I mean, that's gut check time,
I'm playing
right?
radio.
Yeah. I love it.
My office here.
Yeah, that's good.
But this is where radio's going. So
yeah, I agree.
Podcasting is radio 2.0.
I agree.
So with those kinds of things, I mean, was there a time when you started getting into the business that you still had to have those comeuppances? Because you started here locally in Nashville, correct?
No, I started in Nebraska.
Okay.
So I got out of the Navy. My last station, I was a water survival instructor in Pensacola, and I got into telemarketing there just because we didn't have any money. And I'd telemarket in the evenings. And that was like my first foray into sales, and I was actually okay at it.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Nebraska, and I had 2 job interviews that day. I had a interview with Radigan Chevrolet, Missouri Valley, Iowa, and then I had an interview with Merrill Lynch. And I never made the Merrill Lynch interview. The guy at the dealership, and it appealed to me. I only had 1 car at the time. They offered a demo back in those days, and I had 3 little kids at that point. So I didn't want to leave my wife at home without a car. And the guy was like, well, I got to talk to the general manager to see if I can hire you or not. And I said, listen, you need to understand, I'm unemployed, and I'm going to go to work for somebody today. And he's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and hire you.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I started.
In Nebraska.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
I was there about 3 years, I think. I started, I was, Radigan Chevrolet, I was only there for a few months. My uncles are in the car business in Omaha. And Roy Ninneman had just bought a store called Roy's Bellevue Nissan. And I was like selling a lot of cars. My first month in car business, I sold 26 cars.
Yeah.
And my second month, I sold about the same thing. I think I sold 22 my third month. So the December 1st, I started at Roy's Bellevue Nissan, and I didn't sell a car like you're talking about for 16 days. I blanked.
Wow.
And I'm used to coming home every night. My wife is like, how many cars did you sell today? It might be 1, might be 2, but it's usually always 1.
Yeah.
And to your point, that was that moment for me. It was gut check time. I literally went and took a signature loan out for $2,500 to cover Christmas and my bills. I ended up selling 17 cars the last half of that month, and I was okay. And that was the only bad month I ever had from a sales standpoint in the car business.
Was that at that point in life that you were like, oh yeah, I want to do this?
Yes, it was at that point in life. It was like literally, it was so freeing to me because I was literally like, I can move anywhere in the country and live there and support my family because I can sell cars and I'm good at it.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better, sound better, and, well, spring better. We just make them incredible again. Incredible Doors in Spring Hill for when your door's springs break. You need remote reconnections, opener installation, or just about anything to do with your garage door. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR.
So that was kind of freeing. And then I ended up taking a management position in Monroe, Louisiana, which was an interesting experience.
How many years in for that?
A year in Monroe.
So getting a management position that quick is...
No, 3 years selling cars, and then to get into...
That seems to be about the time frame, right?
Yeah, and then I did a year there, and then I went to Tullahoma, Tennessee as a used car manager at Quality Ford. A guy named Bob Spangler owned that store. Nice man. And then I hated management. I was making less money than I was selling cars. I was working a lot more hours. You know, when you're selling cars, everybody's happy. You know, he sold something. Everybody's pleased to see you. When you're the management, it was kind of like not the case. And so I quit there, and I said, I'm just going to go back to sell cars. And I did. I went to Bill Hurd Chevrolet.
Down here in Nashville.
In Antioch, yeah. And they interviewed me. They're like, hey, we'd like to talk to you about management. I'm like, I'm not interested. And I started selling cars, and like I wasn't there 2 weeks, and Brian Palmer was the general sales manager there. So that was my first time working with Mr. Palmer. He pulled me into his office and says, hey, I need you to be the used car manager here, or a used car manager for me here. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And he's like, you're making a mistake. I'm like, every time I do this, I make less money. And he talked me into doing it, and it turned out being a great decision.
Did he make it work?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He absolutely did. I worked 1 million hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked.
But I mean, that's kind of a lot of people that go into that. I call the car business like entrepreneurship in a box.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
As close as you can be to owning your own business without the headaches of HR, the back office, billing, contracting, inventory control. You're in charge of sales and marketing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's you.
And it really
the
does.
Brand, yeah.
It does take about 5 years to start getting some traction. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's when you start seeing return customers, things like that.
I got traction instantly.
Yeah.
I really did.
It's a business that can happen because you got so many people inbound.
It was different.
Right.
I was a lot fortunate to be in the car business when I was in it, because it changed so much in the 20 years I was in it.
Oh, I bet.
There was no internet, none of that stuff when I first got into it. And that was revolutionary change. But like when I went to work, I mean, it was just a matter of you stood outside.
Yeah.
And it was Nebraska, so it was cold and hot. But like when I went to work, it was literally, nobody's going to get an up until I get an up. And for the non-initiated, an up as a client in car business
it's lingo. It's
it is. And it was just different. Back then we would type up letters, and we'd send out, direct mail, our own direct mail that we paid for, to the people that we had conversations with. If you were, somewhat, more aggressive and on top of your game. But it was just completely different.
Because you get those people that come into the business similar to the real estate industry. You got people who are committed and those who are just interested.
Yeah.
Right. People that see it as a job, people see it as a career.
Well, so many people see it as just, I've always said this in a million sales meetings. I don't think anybody stands up in front of the 5th grade class and says, I want to sell cars,
right?
When I get older. But it's an industry that I think finds a lot of people. And it was really good to me. I don't have a college education.
Right.
And I made good money in that industry.
Well, I mean, anything like even in the college, you come out of college and you want to make a good living, it's still going to take time and hours.
Yeah.
You're still going to put your time in.
Absolutely.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, as we're finding out, is exactly like that.
Yes.
Even getting to what you're doing now, that was kind of like a restart in your career. That probably took time out of your day as well.
Sure.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But so you're at Bill Hurd. You meet Mr. Palmer. And for those of you who don't know, Brian Palmer ran the Cadillac store, Crest Cadillac, downtown Nashville, the Saab store for a season.
Yeah.
When it was
they had
Saab.
Hummer too.
They had Hummer, right?
Yep.
So he oversaw the entire group.
Yes, he did.
You were in charge of Honda, it being a higher volume store, I guess, out of the entirety.
It wasn't when I started.
Really?
It was low volume, yeah.
Did you go from Bill Hurd to, you were at Jim Reed at one point too?
Yeah, so I went from Bill Hurd, I stayed there. I was a used car, ended up being the used car director there, which is a big volume store. We do about 1,000 cars a month.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah. It was an interesting culture. The culture was not the car business done the right way. Brian ended up leaving. He got replaced. The culture changed. It was not, where I wanted to be. Right. And I reached out to Alan Vines, who was the general sales manager at Jim Reed Chevrolet. And I just said, hey, look, you don't know me. This is what I do at Bill Hurd. I'd like to look at making a change. And I met with him, and they hired me as the used car manager there. And I stayed there for 6 years. I was there for 3 years as a used car manager, and then I became the general sales manager when Alan Vines left there. So
you kind of, because the traditional upward trajectory is from salesman, and you probably go to F&I, then you go to the desk.
You can go from, it's kind of two different paths. You go from salesman either up the finance path, which you can also go straight to GSM, or you can go from the salesman's path to desk manager, whether that's new or used cars, and then to GSM, and that's the way I went.
Right. So GSM, you made that at Jim Reed.
Yes.
Right.
That's correct.
And then Sonic comes about. Sonic was a different animal at that point.
Yeah, so I stayed at Jim Reed for 6 years, and then I left Jim Reed and went to work for Mark Pirtle, lovely man.
I've heard his name.
He's a great guy. And the Reeds are wonderful people too. I want to be clear. I don't think I've ever had anybody that I've ever worked for that I didn't respect and enjoy working for.
But did you have those moments of where you had to, be straightened out, like that moment we had in your office where I just needed
Yes, Brian Palmer I had lots of those conversations.
I could see him doing that.
Yes. And I needed them too, right? Like we all need that, right? I think I've been fortunate to have great mentorship in my life and my career. I think I've tried to repay some of that and do some mentoring of my own, and I'm still doing that now. And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing is to try to repay some of what others have done for me.
What I always appreciated about you is that there's a term, one of the many things I learned in the business was, and it might have been JC Ward who...
lovely man.
Right. He was awesome, man.
Lovely man.
If you're watching this, JC, we all love you.
Yeah,
I want to reconnect. We got to go. We got to jam. I'm playing the drums again.
Say hi to Diane.
Right. He ended up, he told me something that I've often repeated to other people. And he says, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot.
Yeah.
And you're one of those people that you don't strike me as someone who's okay with being ripe.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
Right.
That's the goal, is to not become that person. I will tell you, I think the older you get, the harder it is, right? Like just trying to keep up with all the technology is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. That's not who I want to be. I want to be green and growing as much as possible.
And it is tough to do because you know how things are to be done. But of course, the technology aspect of it is even conceptually some of the things that need to be done in a culture or in sales. We had, good old Rick Quarles, interesting last name.
Good man.
He was a great guy.
Yeah.
He had his way of doing things.
Yes.
And then, I would come to you because at the time I was green and I was growing and I was trying to learn and everything. I would say, well, he's told me to do it this way. And you'd be like, that son of a bitch told you that. Doesn't he realize there's 1,001 ways to skin a cat?
I don't know, but I hope I didn't call him an SOB. No. I love Rick. Rick, I actually met at Jim Reed for the first time. He was my Isuzu factory rep.
That's right.
Rick was the factory Isuzu rep in our area, and he's a nice man.
Yeah.
And then when he came back and was looking for a job in the car business, it was an easy decision for me.
He was one of the guys who was hard on me in the beginning, but after a while, you just figured out he became the guy I wanted to go to get my deals desked.
I had so many good people that I was blessed to have at that store. Rick was just one of those guys, kind of like a Matt West. I mean, he just showed up every morning and put his head down, his shoulder to the plow, and he was as dependable. I mean, you could just count on him. He was like steady Eddie.
Yeah.
And that is such an important thing in a business.
I would imagine that to look back on that time, because you came to Sonic. Did you come there as a GM?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started, my first Sonic store was at Tom Williams Cadillac.
Okay.
I had talked to Brian. Brian said, you really ought to talk to Sonic. So I went and talked to him. Jeff Wiggins was the RVP, another wonderful man. He asked me to come to Tom Williams Cadillac. So it's in kind of an auto mall outside of Birmingham. They have Mercedes, Lexus, Land Rover, Porsche, and the Cadillac store. And it was a small Cadillac store. We didn't have a lot of salespeople. They told me that we'd never get it profitable. It'd take like 6 months to a year to get it profitable. We made money the first month, and they were thrilled. And then they offered me, he said, I got 2 stores to tell you about. At that time, my family was still in Murfreesboro, and I was coming back on the weekends and staying in an apartment.
Oh my gosh.
In Birmingham, right? It wasn't a lot of fun, but I didn't want to relocate them, which we were open to, but we didn't really want to do it. The kids, we're kind of towards the end of high school there. And Jeff said, I have 2 stores I want to tell you about. And he said, the first one's Crest Honda. And I said, don't tell me about the second one. I don't want to know, because then I don't have to move. But I was like kind of like the fair-haired boy, at the Cadillac store. And then I went to the Honda store, and it was like going from like the frying pan to the fire.
Really?
It is a big brand. It's an important brand to Sonic. And the heat was on.
Wow.
And, fortunately we got through it, but it was not an easy task at first.
Now you go to a place like that Cadillac store, and they haven't been profitable. They think it's going to take 6 months to a year to make it profitable.
Yeah.
Did you get there and immediately know what the problem was?
My wife said it to me when I took the job. That store was literally only selling 32 cars a month. And she's like, well, you can sell 32 cars a month yourself. And that was kind of just the mentality that I went in. What I always did every time I went into a store, whether it was as a GSM or a used car manager, the general manager, I'd get a yellow notebook like you have there, and I'd sit down and I would interview everybody. And I would ask them kind of the same questions. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can I help you? And if you listen to your people, right? I mean, those people a lot of those guys at Cadillac store had been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
They forgot more about that Cadillac store than I'm probably ever going to know. And if you just are willing to listen to them, right? And then, they want somebody that they feels like going to put their shoulder to the plow too and help them, then it's really not that difficult, right? I mean, people will tell you what needs to happen. You just got to be smart enough to hear them and then put it into place, so to speak.
To not have hubris, I guess, which you find a lot in the car business as well with managers that I have like a philosophy. You get some salespeople that aspire to get to the desk. They want those higher management positions, but remember how they were treated along the way.
Yeah.
So therefore they feel like, well, hey, because I was treated this way, I'm not going to break the cycle.
I get
to do that now.
It's
right?
the worst.
But here you are, you kind of indicated the first instance of what good culture building is.
Yeah.
Your ear to the pulse of your business.
Yeah.
What are people saying? Do they feel comfortable saying it to me? Are they being genuine? Those kinds of things really do come out. And, well, this guy's willing to listen. That's a game changer right there.
I remember selling cars in Nebraska and like having a date with my wife, and the dealership would close at, I don't know what time it closed, and let's say 8:00.
Yeah.
And she would get there. I would have a customer, right? And they would literally lock me out of the dealership.
Really?
Like the new car manager, the F&I guy, would just leave. Like, that always stuck with me, right? Like when a salesperson comes to a manager, right? The desk guy that's just like, oh, go do this or do that. It's like, get up off your seat and on your feet and go get in front of that customer. Because if you want to get a salesperson behind you, go turn a customer into a sale that's about to walk out the door and put a commission in that salesperson's pocket.
Wow.
That's when you get them behind you, right? That's leading by example, right? And maybe you're not going to shut down everyone and close every client, but at the very least, when you get up and try, right, then they know that you're in the game with them, so to speak.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, that's those things that you learn not to do early on.
Yeah.
I'll never do that to one of my guys. They need to know that they've got support.
Yeah.
Because everybody wins.
Yes.
That was one of the things that appealed to me with the Dream Group that I work with quite a bit now. I love their culture.
Yeah.
I think they're growing in leaps and bounds, but their culture is very important to the CEO. His name is Joe Agresti.
Okay.
Great dude. I'll dare I say I'm friends with him, but I think, it's probably still at acquaintance level. I'll be real about it. But, he'll take a text and maybe bounce it back every now and then. But
good.
But he is, I appreciate his appreciation for culture. Good culture. He says, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it this way. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah, why not have a good? Who wants a bad culture? It's misery.
But it's so rife in that industry.
Yeah,
I think
it's rife in all industries. I want to be clear. I think, I mean, come on.
I mean,
you think everybody working in the Amazon warehouse is happy? I mean, they just think
you're not going to please everybody.
No,
I mean, that's not going to happen.
No,
but I mean, you're going to have a lot of, the car business has got a tremendous amount of turnover.
Yes,
and you got like even these social media so-called gurus, one in particular that's starting to come up in the the car sales industry. Like Cardone kind of left that void.
Yeah, he went to real estate or something, didn't he?
He's big into real estate now. Good for him.
Yeah, sure.
Right? But he's left that void. Somebody else is coming into it. His name is Andy Elliott.
Okay.
And he's an old car guy, and he's teaching these, appealing to young generation men of this bro mentality, almost like fraternity-esque type of hazing that needs to happen in the car business and other, near-term transactional sales businesses, door-to-door, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, someone had commented on one of his things where Andy took somebody who was in a room, like a general room, a bunch of people got together to get training, and he just picked on this one guy. And they they blurred his face out, and did all sorts of things.
Yeah, why do that?
But that's the thing is that, I understand what he was trying to do. And he's trying to create controversy in his marketing. But at the same time, those of you who are buying into this, what favors are you doing yourself? Yeah. Okay, how much does it cost to onboard a new employee? How much time are you going to take to train them?
Yes.
Okay, for you to just treat them like crap in a militaristic environment. That they don't need to stick around. They're not forced to be here.
No, they'll vote with their feet.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
So why, here's this unhealthy advice being doled out by this guy that's hurting businesses.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
but I mean,
terrible.
you see that you actually came to Crest Honda as a GM and getting back on track here. I told you the conversations we had.
That's fine.
You get to, what was the fire like at Crest at that point? Was that 06, 05?
That would have been 06. Let's see. I think it was 05. 13 years there, 8 left in 13. Yeah, that would have been 2005. That's exactly right.
So about the same year I got here.
So you get it when you're a general manager, right? If you're replacing a general manager, you're not going into a store that's running like a Swiss watch, right? Unless you're extraordinarily lucky, right?
Right.
And the store's broke. So there is a lot of pressure, right? And they want to see results really quickly at the top level. Mm-hmm. So it was, I got a letter from Ed Harris, who at that time was the regional manager for Honda out of Atlanta, and it was probably the nastiest letter I've ever received from a rep in my career at that point.
Really?
Yeah, it was basically I don't think they hired the right guy, and I don't think
he sent this to you.
Pretty much, I'm just kind of paraphrasing it, but it was you don't have very much time to get this fixed. He was not happy about me getting the job, and then by the time I left, obviously he loved me.
Yeah.
But it was you everything's broke. The culture's broke, and then it's how do you fix a culture? And it's one person at a time, one day at a time, one decision at a time.
Yeah.
And that's all. And try to lead by example. That's literally all you can do. And then hire people and bring people in, or hopefully turn the people you got right and get them to buy in the direction that you want to take the store. Because at the end of the day, there's 180 people, you're one.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not like you've got to get everybody else to grab hold and lift. And, I think the thing that I'm the most proudest of is we didn't have to turn a lot of people over.
Right.
We had a lot of good people. We just kind of had to get them all singing on the same page of the hymn book, so to speak.
And that's the thing is, how do you go about, you can either do it by force and by fear and by penalty.
Yeah. Who wants to do that?
Well, that's kind of what it turned into for me, at least. That was for you. It was more about inspiring and drawing it out of them and making them want to swim in the same direction with the same ferocity.
Yeah. I mean, that's nice of you to say, for sure, but
it was noticed, and it's not just
thank
me.
You.
There are people who are champions of you in now all parts of the country that you've had a positive impact on. That's nothing to speak short of at all.
Well, thank you for that.
Me definitely one of them. You are in a handful of people that have had a positive impact on my life from a management standpoint. And it's funny because it's always been like firsts. In my radio career, the first guy I worked for was very motivational, very poured into my life, mentored me. And then he ended up taking another job. The guy who followed him was okay, But that was time for me to leave anyway.
Yeah.
And then the guy who hired me in Vegas, same kind of situation, all about just picking ourselves up by our bootstraps. Hey, we don't have a budget for roller banner, so we're actually hand arting or drawing our banners for remotes.
Wow.
Until we could actually afford roller banner. He was passionate about the brand, about the radio station. He was involved in our life. We had him over for, public or, events and stuff like that and friendly hangouts. And then, he ended up getting a job in Texas. The guy who came in after him, I still love the guy, but one of the first things he said, Jack, was, you're here to make me look good.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not why I'm here at all.
Yeah.
That's when I knew the countdown clock had begun for me. Move here to Nashville. I never had an instance like that where I ended up working. All the management there was world class at that radio station. Dennis Guazdon, Craig Jacobus, Barbara Bridges, Craig Jones, Becky Sweeney, JP Engelbrecht, the owner, was always world class. So I ended up leaving that business because I got it out of my system. Yeah. And I remember you always saying, well, hey man, if you ever want to make $100,000 a year, come on over with me. And I was like, all right, it's time.
Yeah.
And even I talk about the detour I had out of radio into the car business. I worked for Prices for a season.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
I remember that. Yeah.
It killed me to have to come in and tell you that
day. Did it?
Yeah. You hired me on, we were going to do the training, and all of a sudden Bobby hired me.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to talk to Steve. He's going to, and you were like, all right, man, it's all cool.
It's okay.
If it doesn't work out, come on.
Yes. You can always get back in the car business. Yeah.
And then, it didn't work out. And 2.5 months later, come on in.
Yeah. It's glad to have you. Who wouldn't be glad to have you?
Well, but that's your attitude. You didn't hold it against me. It was.
No, why? What would be the advantage?
I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, you want to hire, attract, retain good people. It's four walls and a roof.
Right.
Any business, right? So, you're constantly trying to find good talent.
And the funny thing is I still keep in touch with so many people in that business from that particular dealership.
The people were the magic for me in the car. That's what I miss. I don't miss necessarily the car business, but the people. And don't get me wrong, I have a wonderful people, but I don't know. There's just something about that environment, kind of that lifestyle. I don't know what it is, but I just love the people because they're all so different, right? Especially in Nashville. We could have had some of the best musicians in the world were selling cars, right? And I mean, they're just our Christmas bands were epic,
When I made the decision to go to Mercedes, we had a Thanksgiving meal where we set up the whole showroom with the tables and everything.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of myself and I sent it to my wife, and she's like, you're going to miss that place and working with those guys. I'm like, you're shit. Yeah. I said, these guys were awesome to work with.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a tough and stressful business. But man,
it is.
We had a good time.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened at Mercedes. I made good friends, still talk to them to this day.
Yes.
It's just something about it.
Man. It is. I love it.
What do you miss? You miss the most about it?
The people. The people.
Yeah.
The people. And, it's very linear. And what I mean by that, maybe linear is not the right word, but it's easy to define success pretty much in every role, right? Whether you're a technician and how many hours per RO you turn, whether you're a salesperson and how many cars you sell, a finance manager, what are your numbers that you're averaging? And then, as a dealer, as a general manager, how are you competing is from a market share perspective, right? You get to see it. So whether you're taking market share or losing market share. So you really get to see whether you really are doing a good job or not so good a job.
When did you feel like you were on the right track at Crest Honda? How long did it take?
Probably about, I don't know. I mean, I felt like I've always been confident, in the car business, just because I spent so much time coming up through the ropes. So I wore a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I could go into any dealership and feel like I'd be pretty comfortable just because I understand it. Now, I might not anymore. It's changed a lot in the last 10 years since I've been out of it.
So much.
For sure.
Yeah.
So there'd definitely be a learning curve now, but I always felt good. There were two defining moments, I think. Probably my second year was I felt like we were really starting to get our feet in the ground. And then when we rolled out upfront pricing, that was just kudos to Sonic for bringing that out. We were, I think, the second store in the company to pilot that. And we were the only one that had tremendous success with it right off the bat.
Right.
And we literally sold out of cars. And it was just this is how cars should be sold.
Yeah.
You just took the negotiation away for new cars and used cars. You priced them correctly. And look, like I said, I'm not in the industry anymore, but I mean, used cars are definitely being priced that way for sure to this day. And new cars and brands that can get away with it, it's the way to do it. It's just transparent. I mean, it's such a nice way to do business
when you show
with your
up
clients
to buy a new car. Is that salesperson in luck? You sell people that worked in the car business. It's kind of like,
when I bought my wife's, I bought her new CRV. She has a Toyota minivan now that I bought from Mr. Palmer during the pandemic because her CRV got wrecked. But when I went and bought a new CRV for her in Morristown, it was fun because, it's interesting to be on the other side of the desk,
right?
Especially when you're out of the industry like I am now and have been for a long time. But literally, one of the guys came over to me as we're at the desk doing the paperwork. And he's like, Mr. Brink, I just wanted to say hi to you. And I turned around and I don't recognize the guy. And he's like, you were my general sales manager at Jim Reed Chevrolet years ago. And I used to love your sales meetings. And I was like, oh my God, no, it's so nice to see you. But it's a small industry, a small world in the car business, but it is different. We have a lot of vehicles that I buy. That's kind of one of the hats I wear in our current company for our estimators and foremen that need company vehicles. So I usually start online,
right?
And I reach out and be like, "Here's what I want," and
here's a good price to pay.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that you're going to make some profit. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but, totally fine with it. Yeah. But I'm not okay with being there for 5 hours to sign my paperwork. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the things I got really good at was just being efficient.
Yes.
I think my quickest sale from start to finish. I mean, customer called me. I made sure the car they were on their way in. Made sure it was on, presented well and everything. Let's jump in. Let's have it was a used car too. Have a test drive, get back. You like it? Great. Let's whip up the paperwork.
Yeah.
I think it was 45 minutes.
Yeah. That's what people want, right? Time's so precious. And,
we were able to do that at Mercedes though. It's tough to do when you're competing with 5 other brands in a 50-mile radius.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
I would actually say it was a lot easier to sell Mercedes than it was Honda.
Yeah, I've never sold Mercedes, so I couldn't really speak to that. But I think it's if you're selling anything, you want to be the subject matter expert, right? You want to believe and like the product. One of the things new salespeople do all the time is they pick out whatever model that they would buy, kind of in their mind. I don't even know if they're consciously aware that they're doing it. And then they try to take all the customers to that vehicle because they like it, right? And, selling at its bare essence is a transference of feelings. So you transfer how you feel about the product to the client, good or bad. It's interesting.
That was one of my strengths at Mercedes because Honda made sense for me because we drove Hondas.
Great cars.
They're amazing cars, still are. And my first sale, oddly enough, was to a couple who bought a minivan, an Odyssey.
Okay.
And it was, wow, I found like the light bulb moment was then where I was like, okay, here's what we do when we put our car seats in. I put them in like this. We go back here. We bring the seats down. And I was going through the motions of what we normally do. And all of a sudden there was a relation happening. They could relate to that.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's what you can expect when the new kids come and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's how it works.
Yeah, that is how it works. That's
the
great.
scary thing for me was going from a, not a domestic, but a rampant brand Honda to a Highline was, I'm sure I can relate to the people okay. It went from LX, EX, EXL to just massive scope of options. And they wouldn't let you on the floor until you at least got minimally certified.
Yeah.
So I think I left mid-month, which looking back on it was a mistake. But anyway, because that would have been my first big month that Honda had I stayed. But anyway, past is the past. I made the commitment to sell my first car by the end of December. And it was New Year's Eve day.
Oh, wow.
That it happened.
No.
Down to the last hour.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And the next car I sold was a 6-figure car. And I got Courtney on the text. I'm like, can you believe I sold a car?
Yeah.
At 6 figures. And I sold a house.
Yeah. No kidding. Back then, that was a house, too.
It was.
Yeah.
Small house.
Yeah.
But it was a massive confidence builder.
It is.
Confidence is a memory of success, showing that, hey, you can do something like this. And the reason why I considered Mercedes was because of a Honda customer who used to be in the car business.
Yeah.
We were on a test drive, and he goes, "You're really good at this." I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that." And he goes, "You're in the wrong brand."
Yeah.
"Okay, why do you say that?" He goes, "You need to be selling Highline." I said, "Dude, to be honest with you, we have Highline dealerships in our group here locally."
Yeah,
and every time
a bunch of them here.
Yeah. Whenever I go to those stores, I just feel like I'm not cut from that cloth. I almost feel intimidated. Like I go to BMW to get a bunch of cars. We're showing other people and we're cross-pollinating and stuff. He's like, "No, dude, you could totally do it."
And they're right. You could totally do it, obviously, and you did it.
But it took him to tell me.
That's funny.
It could have been you. It could have been my wife, my parents, my brother, my kids telling me. I would have been like, what do you know?
Yeah.
One guy that didn't know me from Adam, I took seriously. And literally, after I sold the car, I went online and I found the position open.
That's awesome.
And I went to Mercedes.
That's awesome.
And it's like, here I am 10 years down the road after the fact going, I never realized I'd be this much of a champion of a German brand ever in my life.
They're cool cars.
They're great cars.
Yeah.
Amazing cars.
I love cars.
I mean, what was kind of like those, what were kind of like those moments in your life in the car business, those confidence builders? Or did you automatically go into it like that from the get-go?
So my first day in the car business, they stuck me in a closet and they had the old rack with the TV and the VCR tape. And there was a guy named Jackie Cooper who hailed from somewhere in Georgia, I believe. And I watched, 4 or 5 hours, maybe 8 hours of
Sales training.
Yeah, of him telling you how to sell a car. It's basically him telling a bunch of stories, really. Mm-hmm. And I walked out of there that night, and there was a couple on the lot, an older couple. I met them, and they went home. We sold them a Buick LeSabre, and they bought it that night. And there was 2 takeaways for me. One, they paid cash. The concept that somebody could spend, I think the car was like $28,000 back then, and write a check for it. To me, when I didn't have, $100 net worth, is like crazy to me that people had that kind of money. So that was my first epiphany. And then I kind of looked around at the people that I was working with, and I was just like, a guy with a little common sense can go a long ways in this industry. And I kind of bought into it right then. And then for management, for me, I kind of figured because I was a really good salesperson, then when I went into management, I've always been a hard worker. So getting off the desk and getting in front of that customer, taking that TO is something I just wanted to do.
Yeah.
The salespeople certainly liked it. It goes back to that, help them make a commission. I mean, they get behind you pretty quick when they're making more money because of your involvement. But when I got out of management, then I went to Bill Hurd. Brian taught me getting back into management. I had this moment where I looked around the room and it was like, all these salespeople, I can't sell 300 cars a month, right? And that's what that store did in used cars on an average month back then. Those people in that room are going to determine my success or not.
Yeah.
That was eye-opening for me. And I don't know why. I guess I'm a little slow in the uptake on some of this stuff. I think most sales managers probably get that quicker than I did, but that was that moment. And so from that moment on, when I was a sales manager, those people in that room were the most important product thing, if you will, in my life.
Yeah.
And it was, so I wanted to constantly grow them. What can I do to help them be better? Work with them on whatever skills that I thought they might need a little coaching on, get involved in their deals quicker, and then obviously hire and bring in, people like yourself, good quality people, to make your job easier.
Right.
So that was a big one for me.
It taught me a lot. Like I've had a lot of comeuppance moments in that business, like the 2-week dry spell, which was, I'll never forget.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. But you look back on it and you laugh and you have a little bit of reverence for something like that. Because you needed to go through it.
Yeah, once you get through it,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, the going through it's not fun. Because I've had, similar events since that has certainly given me the stamina and the grit to realize that, hey, these valleys only last for so long.
Yeah.
And they certainly have been not numerous, but we've had them. You know, we had a pretty big one a couple of years ago that I had to get in front of, and it was one of those things that 10 years ago would have crippled me mentally. Yeah. But you had the mental fortitude to get through it. The other aspect of things is that it taught me how to ask questions, and the question that isn't asked, the response will typically be negative or a no answer. You're just never going to know, obviously. I teach that to my kids.
Good for you.
Almost to my detriment because now they ask for everything.
Yeah.
But mainly it taught me, like, even interacting with management in a certain scenario when I was at Mercedes, man, it taught me how salespeople forget how to sell when they get in front of managers.
Yeah, they do. And some
really
of them do a really good job. Some of them do a really good job, but yeah, some of them don't. Yeah.
You know, especially when they're trying to put, you know, everything that was post everything that happened was after you left.
Yeah.
Like everything just pay plan changes retroactively, that kind of like looking back on, I'm like, this is like borderline illegal. That shouldn't have happened. And I look at it like in that situation now, I just would have been like, all right, you want to get my attorney on the phone now or wait until after the conversation's over?
Yeah, I don't have any idea what happened, but it doesn't sound good. Pay plan changes are always,
that's part of that business.
Yeah, it is, but certainly sensitive.
Yeah,
at the very least.
It's like everything's going great. Let's change it.
I've seen dealers do that before. I've literally seen us set records like you could not believe records, and then the next month want to cut people's pay. And
why do they do that though? It's like that's the mystery.
I think it's a greed thing, and I think they all go to 20 groups and different things where they're surrounded by other dealers, and so they can kind of compare. It's a smart thing, really. They can kind of see best practices and in all segments of their business, quite frankly. But you'll see somebody say, "Oh, your compensation's too high here," or whatever. But at the end of the day, I always wanted my people to be paid the most. Like I wanted my goal, and I'm not always sure that I always got it, but I certainly had some salespeople that did extraordinarily well. But I wanted my salespeople anywhere I worked to be the highest paid people in our community. Mm-hmm. And for selfish reasons also, going back to that no turnover, right? If you're making great money and doing what you love to do, then you're not looking at the Highline store, right? You're not looking somewhere else. So, and I came from that pipeline. I was a salesman. So the last thing I wanted to do was serve up a pay plan that I wouldn't have worked for.
Well, I ended up going and helping a friend of mine buy a car shortly after I got out of the business. And I'm not going to say where it was, but we got into F&I, and the girl that was in F&I, I knew her. She had come from corporate, never sold a car in her life, in an F&I office.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then the next day, she was going to be taking a job at another dealer in a desk job at the desk.
Yeah, somebody's trying to fast track her for her career to some place where she's going, but
you cannot empathize with your guys.
No, you can't.
You have to do that.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, I've saw that in the industry, and
did that happen?
I don't get it. Yeah.
So I mean, that was also one of the and one of the things that the hubris that was just unbelievable. Like you really are overconfident about this, but here we are. So it taught us a lot. So you got out in 2013.
Yes. Yep. October.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not shortly after I started. And I was like, well, I only got a short time to work with you, but that was all right.
Yeah.
You were working, like moving into a different industry. Your career change happened a little bit later than that 40-year mark.
I went into an industry that I know absolutely nothing about, zero about.
How did that come up?
I got a great friend of mine, Ty Monk, founded Monk's Home Improvements in New Jersey. And he had, he started out a one-man band. Cell phone was his office number, a truck, and a couple crews, and they did exterior painting is what they did. And he did it well. He literally got to the point where he only worked, 8 months a year. He took the winters off because you can't paint when it's cold. And it gets cold up there in the winters. It used to get a lot colder than it does now. And then he started going into carpentry. We'd literally talk every night. We're like best friends. So I would be able to kind of talk to him about what I'm dealing with in the car business. I talked to him about, hey, you need to hire another estimator, get yourself out of there, start training people. And he did. And then he's grown that. So it got up to the point where they were ready to get into the remodeling side of the business. He wanted to have his own showroom. What happened is they would sell you, let's say you wanted to remodel your bathroom or a kitchen. They could handle the labor side of that, but the client didn't know what to pick, where to buy it, how much of it to buy. So that was the genesis of opening up the first showroom. Was to kind of try to offer that client that turnkey experience.
So you kind of were brought up there to bring it. I would. It sounds to me like a luxury service.
It is. It's yeah. We're not for necessarily your blue collar client, your do it yourself, or the Home Depot guy.
Right. We're
probably not a fit for that.
How long has he been in business now?
So Ty started in 2008, I believe.
Oh, good year.
He actually, you remember he came and sold cars at the Honda store. I don't know if you know that or not. He actually has been in your office before. I had a picture of you, Ron Denny, myself, and Ty.
Oh, okay, the studio.
Yeah, he came down. He did not own his own company at that time. So I guess it would have been in 07.
Yeah.
It was Thanksgiving 07, I think. He came down. He sold cars for a month at the Honda store. He kind of wanted to see that side of the industry and learn some of the way that we dealt with clients and kind of how we sold.
Interesting. So he knew what he wanted to do.
Well, he got fired literally on Thanksgiving. The guy that he was working for, same type of industry, selling exterior paint jobs, owed him some money and was kind of dragging his feet on paying him. And he literally got fired at my house on Thanksgiving. To his credit, nobody knew he got fired. He never whined, complained, said anything about it. But that was the start. He literally was like, I'm going to start my own painting company.
Right.
And he did. And he built literally the largest exterior painting company, residential painting company in the state of New Jersey, which is saying something. I mean, there's 9 million people in that state. So it's a big company. But when I came up, it was to, my background's retail. And I'm very comfortable with the retail part of it, but I knew nothing about kitchen and bath design, any of that stuff. Yeah. So it was a learning curve, to say the least.
Well, I mean, you're starting a business at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, even though he's already established 5 years into it by then.
Yeah.
You had talks and everything leading up to it, of course, to make the transition smooth.
Yeah.
Then you get up there, it's like, okay, we got to make this thing happen. So there's a tremendous risk on you as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was risk on him because you had to make sure you were supported.
Yeah, it was a big risk because there's a huge friendship there, obviously, too, right? And we were very tight. And he wanted me to come up there. I wanted to go up there. I didn't feel the risk factor that great. And this is probably a little bit self-serving, but I felt like if I went up there and we didn't like it or it didn't work out, I could always go back and get in the car industry.
Right.
And I think he felt the pressure of, I want to make this work. I don't want this guy to come up here and have to go back. And so we were both had a vested interest in it being successful, and it certainly has been extremely successful. So, so that's wonderful.
I appreciate the fact that you picked him up around Thanksgiving of that year.
Yeah.
And then he got into, how long did he sell cars for?
About a month. Okay. Almost a month. And that was the thing. He was taking like 4 weeks off.
Yeah.
He's like, can I hire you? Or can you hire me? Can I come down here? Can I spend a month? So he literally lived with me for that month, rode to work with me, rode home with me. And he stayed for a month. And
you guys are the same age at this point?
I think he's 4 years younger than me, I believe.
We're relatively in that.
Yeah, we're close, yeah.
So, I mean, here's the thing is that he had the fortitude and the humility to get at the bottom ranks of a business just to understand it. So I'm going to start applying it to his business.
Yeah, with his best friend, obviously. Right. Yeah, he's that kind of guy. To his credit, though, he really is. He'll take pride and put it over here on the side and look, I'm going to go fail, and he didn't fail, but he's willing to take a chance at failing to try to grow.
You're going to fall on your face.
Yeah,
you're going to eat dirt.
Yeah,
but you only fail if you quit.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's the way to look at it.
Yes.
He just knew it was like, we're going to keep pushing forward, like you said, put my shoulder against the mill.
Yeah.
And keep pushing.
Yeah, that's who he is. Yeah.
So you get up there, and it's like, okay, here we are starting all over again. It's so funny how many stories I hear where that kind of change happens around that age.
Yeah. We bought a building, first showroom. We designed it. We'd made every mistake you could possibly make.
I bet.
We literally did this. It's a beautiful showroom. And then we had 2 desks for 2 designers. And obviously that wasn't going to work. We figured that out pretty quickly.
Right.
And then, you start, like any business, once you have a model, right? People talk about this, but it's so true. You've got to find out the model works, right? And your clients are going to let you know. And once you figure out that you've got a good business model, it's really just about how much you want to grow that model at that point.
And you got so many gurus out there today telling you that can be done overnight.
Yeah, you can't grow it overnight. That's not possible. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on the industry, right? Maybe if you're selling T-shirts, right? Maybe you can scale that quickly. Or you're selling some type of widget. I don't know.
Right.
But like when you're doing kitchen and bath design and, big dollar sales, it's not going to scale that quickly.
I've been on my own now 8 years, and it certainly has been up and down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How was the pandemic for you?
My business partner who you met.
Yeah.
I call him the business juggernaut. He's got a tremendous brain for strategy and big business organizational systems. Probably one of the best salespeople I've ever met.
That's a great partner to have.
He's a 90 to 95% close rate.
Nice.
I mean, he gets in front of somebody, there's a good chance they're buying.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I consider myself to be a decent salesperson, but when you give him an opportunity, he just, these long-term, long sales cycle deals, which is typically what we're working on with lighting and stuff like that in the car wash industry. He's been an amazing person to come alongside and really humility on my part, learn from. Yeah. And I think to a certain extent, he may learn a few things from me. Who knows? He'll say he does, but jokingly, he'll be, say something that, is a jab. That's how we operate. He helped us get through that particular point in time. We were at a different business in that particular point. So we were really good with looking into the government programs that sustained us for a season.
The PPP money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then that led up to an eventual split, and we just kind of just went our own way.
Okay.
So, but for me, it was my first couple of months, because I went from Mercedes to another company who actually I adore at this point. I work closely with them. At the time, it just wasn't a fit.
Understood.
So after 9 months, we just parted ways. I had one paycheck to go.
Okay.
And I literally just, told Courtney on the way home, she was planning another camping trip. We had taken one that previous October, so we're kind of getting into camping.
Nice.
Let's cancel that. Why is that? So just got let go. We got one paycheck to go. What are you going to do? And this was the second time it happened in 3 years.
That's so stressful.
So the first time I had this notion of maybe I can do this on my own, but I felt like I needed to do what I ended up doing. And it was. I said, but this time around, I feel like the time is right. And she was going, I said, I understand.
That's scary.
Yeah. I said, what about Disney World? Disney, we were going to go in May. Mm-hmm. And I said, we're going. She goes, how do you know? I said,
that's not a cheap trip.
I don't know. I don't know how. But I said, but I assure you, we're going. Come hell or high water, we're going on this trip.
Good.
And she goes, okay. So I just literally looked at it like every single day. This job pays for the car payment. Oh, that job can pay for the mortgage. This job pays for our health insurance.
Yeah.
It was literally that microscopic.
Yeah.
And eventually I got to the point, a couple of weeks into it, hey, we got next month paid for. Month in, we got the next quarter paid for. It just kind of kept on breathing that way in that direction.
That's awesome.
As I put that effort and energy out into the ethos.
Yeah.
Taking what I learned in the car business, a lot of it, and applying it as well. So
nice.
The time comes, and you're going to appreciate this story, where we're about to go on our Disney trip. And I had done a video. I had this idea to do a video that similar to the ones that I had done with Mercedes.
Okay.
Like car tours and, driving. And I did my thing. And I got with Car Dog, Larry.
Oh, yeah. Larry Cheney.
Yeah.
Good man.
He was out in Kia Murfreesboro. I said, hey, what do you think about doing this where you and I just sit in the car, we talk about whatever comes up, like comedians in cars getting coffee style, but we talk about the car, And we did that. We put it all together. Angel sees it, and she's oh my gosh, it's so great to see you guys.
Lovely lady, yeah.
And she reaches out, and we talked a little bit. I said, hey, let me ask you something. What if I did this for you guys? And you're down. I said, I'm going to be in your neck of your woods the next couple of weeks. Well, how much would you charge? I said, I'd probably charge you this. Let me run it by Mr. Palmer and see what he says. So she comes back, deal. I was in a Walmart right here in Spring Hill. We're checking out. And I go to Courtney. I said, guess what? She goes, what? Our 1 week vacation in Florida just turned into a 2 week vacation, and now it's a tax write-off.
Oh, love it. That's awesome. That is awesome.
And we're making money.
Yeah, that's
really
awesome.
So it was almost like in those first few months for me, my experience was God pulling back the curtain, going, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's time.
Yeah.
So it's
good for you.
It's had its ups and its downs.
Yeah.
But it's certainly has made me a lot more courageous, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, it does. 100%.
The car business does that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I tell my kids all the time, I said, if you have nothing else to do all day long, you're not going to love it. You're probably going to, there's a chance you're probably going to fall in love with it and really embrace it and get involved because it does overtake your life.
Yeah.
But if you have anything that you want to earn money towards, go sell cars.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. Go learn how to work with people, how to talk with people, how to deal with managers, how to deal with good managers, how to deal with bad managers, how to defend yourself, how to stand up for yourself, how to orchestrate a deal. All those things are so inherent in life.
Yes.
That they don't teach.
I agree.
Just go do it.
I agree.
Get great at what you hate.
Yeah, it was wonderful for me. Obviously, it was good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I don't think a lot of parents are pushing their kids to go sell cars.
It's an education, guys, and it's not you don't have to consider it to be like a forever thing.
Yeah.
All right. I said, if Cammie didn't want to go to college, I said, here's exactly what I would do if I were you.
Yeah.
All right. Go and do that. Spend 4 years, just 4 years. I said, it seems like a lifetime now, but by the time you're 22, 23, you're going to look back and go, okay, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
I said, by that time, you probably might be into it. I said, but what I want you to do, live at home, sock all that money away.
Yeah.
Okay. Because by the time you're 25, you and I are going into the business and we're going to buy multifamily properties.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. No, it's a good idea.
Yeah. It's a good way, a good path to establish.
I loved it. It was a great industry for me.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that if I never said I would work for somebody ever again, but if I had to, I know exactly who I would work for and what I'd love to be doing.
Nice.
But again, it would be more on my terms.
Yeah.
Because what the biggest problem most salespeople have is no leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the leverage is how many cars they sell.
It is.
It's like the old adage, the top salesperson's taking a nap and the boss walks by. It's like they're waiting for him to say something. They're like, shh, let him rest. I mean, when you're selling a lot of cars, you can pretty much do whatever you want, as long as it's ethical and, nobody's going to complain if you need a day off or, if you're not selling a lot of cars, it's definitely, you got a lot more pressure, like anything, any sales position.
If I had to work for somebody again, it would definitely be the Dream Automotive Group if they would have me, because that would just be, there's so much potential there.
Yeah.
As long as the guy that's at the head stays at the head of it and he's doing what he wants to do and has that intentionality for culture, I'm behind him all day long.
I'm not familiar with them, but that's certainly a nice compliment to his credit.
It's refreshing to see in the industry.
Yeah.
So you got to New Jersey and all of a sudden it's like you've never been to New Jersey before or
never
lived there.
Been.
Gosh, man.
Well, you get it. It's
shocking
like
life or what?
Yeah, the prices, the taxes, the cost of living, the weather. The first couple winters were like something out of Game of Thrones. It was like it just never stopped snowing. Fortunately, that changed, and we've had some mild winters. It was a big culture shift to say the least. It was the same thing. It's like, well, you're close to everything, so we can go to the city if you want.
Yeah.
I think I've been to New York City 3 times in 10 years, so I don't go very often.
Right.
But we certainly have some people that come and visit that want to see those things, and it's New Jersey gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
People see The Sopranos. They think it's all concrete and steel, and it's like the equestrian horse capital of the world.
You're not wrong when people it does get a bad rap.
Yeah,
it's
a just like state. It really is, and it's where we live, it's all huge trees, and it's nice. We like it, but we've really enjoyed it.
Nice. And your wife is from the Midwest as well?
We met in high school. Yeah, first girl I ever kissed.
Wow, wow,
that's true.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you get into the business. You're basically starting another one.
Yeah.
Even though he's got 5-year.
We started this other industry completely scratched together. Right. Yeah.
And how long, when you realized it was, okay, we got something here? How long it was about? I'm going to guess it's 3 to 5 years.
No, it was probably within the first year, definitely within by year 2 for sure.
Yeah.
We had, and you get it, like we're building something. Neither one of us come from that industry. So you got to go meet with all these different vendors that you want to be able to sell their stuff and get them to buy in. You've got to attract and start retaining your employees.
Well, you knew how to do that.
Yeah. But the model was, it was funny. At our Morristown showroom, we have a concierge. Kathy Ellison. She does a fantastic job and been with us a long time. But when a client walks through the door, for all of our designers work by appointments. So when a customer comes in, whether they're going to go see windows and doors or a designer, she opens the door for them. So that was an idea that I had at the beginning, and everybody thought I was crazy. Since that set that first impression, right? It's very un-New Jersey-esque to open a door for somebody. I always told Ty, he could open any business he wanted in New Jersey. All he had to do was just be somewhat nice to his customers. Because there's so many places you go where they don't. It's like they don't want business, you think, because they do treat their clients so poorly. But that was like the first thing we started doing. That was just like a culture shift there, is open the door. She felt weird about it. Everybody felt weird about it, but the customers love it. Yeah. And, we'd open the door, who are you here to see? Can we get you, coffee, water, tea? You kind of fuss them up, and you make that first impression, obviously, as good as you can. That's what every business should try to do, right? And, but we figured it out pretty quick that people liked it. My thing with, like, if you look at somebody's remodeling a house, a kitchen, a bathroom, I think their first biggest fear is that they're going to deal with a fly-by-night contractor, right? We've all got those stories. So you can't come into one of our showrooms, and we check that box like immediately. And then the second thing I think is their biggest fear is that they're going to spend a lot of money, and they're not comfortable with their own taste, that they're going to be happy with the final product, right? So what our designers do is they design it in 2020 design software. And literally it's gotten so good that, we can put that on your phone. We can send it to you, the quote on your phone and the design. You can stand in the space, move your phone around, and you can literally see what that kitchen's going to look like or that bathroom's going to look like before you've spent any money at all.
Oh, wow.
So it's
that's good.
Yeah. So once we figured out that people like the model, then it's really just about scale, right? It's about making sure, you grow it in the right way so you don't have too many customers coming in, not enough people to handle them, making sure you've got the trade set up that you can do the work that needs to be done, because we handle it all. So, we're doing the labor, we're doing the design, we're doing everything, and people like it. So once you figure out they like it, it's a lot easier.
That's one thing that this business that we're in, most of it being the lighting, because we're mainly a lighting manufacturer at this point, among other things. We did a lot of the installations ourselves because you just couldn't find good help, good trades to come to the table and be reliable. Yeah. So we would just train our own people. Did it make you, it made me an ardent champion for trades.
Yeah, skilled labor is a dying breed in our country. Yeah, it goes back, in my opinion, which certainly probably nobody wants to hear my opinion on it, but I think when they took vocational classes out of school, I don't know what they were thinking. For like me, I didn't go to college, auto shop, metal shop, wood shop, made high school bearable for me, right? It was something that I looked forward to going to. And, as we both know, these guys that are good or gals that are good in these trades, they make a lot of money.
Bank.
A good mechanic makes great money. A good electrician makes great money. A good plumber, a good carpenter. I don't think these kids that would really enjoy it are getting that introduction to it in school like they did when I went to high school.
I'm seeing the tides turn on that, though.
Are they?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more people publicly, vocally champion trades, especially now in high school, where it's got to be planted there, especially with companies that are offering, obviously entry-level jobs, instead of working at a restaurant or, a grocery store for an after-school job. Hey, why don't you come on board and just start learning the ropes? And even though most of the work is done by 3:30 in some of these trades, come by, help us organize the warehouse, clean floors, just start surrounding yourself in the environment. I'm seeing a lot more companies start to do that. We're certainly doing it, introducing kids that are college bound. And we have one kid that's kind of like, well, why would I want to be an engineer now? This is really fun. I said, it's totally up to you. I said, but you just turned 21. You barely know who you are. Yeah. And here is, the college industrial or the university industrial complex trying to tell you at, age 18, 19, you got to pick something that you're going to do for the rest of your life.
It's crazy.
Who Who the hell knows that?
Yeah, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
Ever. I don't think.
My daughter is like, I got to pick a major. I said, when all else fails, go with communications. Or, if you like music, go with music.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, so you ended up getting up into doing this kind of a thing, and then you're a year or two into it. It's starting. The pistons are starting to fire. It becomes profitable at that point, typically.
Yeah, I think definitely by year 3, we were profitable, but the sales were growing enough that we had established the model work, right? And once you figure that out, the rest is kind of simple.
Is this something that you think you'd want to train people on or teach people, coach people down the road?
So I'm certainly coaching and hopefully training and coaching the people we have in our company, right? Like that's one of my favorite things to do. So, we've grown some people inside that have kind of taken over their departments or their sides of it. So there's a guy named Peter Sicoli that runs the window and door side of our business. Courtney Tripodi is our lead or head designer. And she started with us and been there a long time. So I like coaching and kind of mentoring them. That's always fun. And then, Ty's a fantastic entrepreneur. So we're constantly, him and I have different personalities. And I think they complement each other well. It kind of sounds like what you had, with your partner. Yeah. He's kind of pedal to the metal. I'm more like cautious, conservative. How's this going to work? How do we structure it? And it works out well.
It's certainly a different animal to advertise and market. Yeah. It's not as immediate and transactional as the car business.
Yeah, and the advertising is so much different, right? Like advertising's changed so much. So much of our spend, the vast majority of our advertising spend is all online.
Really?
It's so much of it's online. And then we do some broad reach, but targeted like Spotify, Pandora, and we like that because what's weird, New Jersey is a dense state. Yeah. We don't cover all of New Jersey. We cover like a very small part of New Jersey. Yeah. So like doing broad reach radio or TV is a problem because we'd be bringing a lot of people in that we can't serve. But like by able to do the Spotify, the Pandora, that kind of by zip code now, that helps too with that.
What is you ever use like networking groups, things of that nature?
No.
It's a perfect fit for it.
It might be. You don't know what you don't know. Right. I literally get people constantly come to the commerce, Chamber of Commerce thing. I did a lot of that early on in my career, and I never felt like I got really anything out of it. So I've just kind of left it alone. I kind of feel like you got to build a business and let it speak for itself to a certain extent.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, people see the value.
Right on.
Yeah.
What's the next 5-10 years for you look like? What do you want to do?
I want to just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm happy. I enjoy where I'm at. I enjoy, it's fun to kind of build something from the ground up. Obviously, you can relate to that and kind of see it take a life of its own. So I'm very happy doing what I'm doing, and I don't see doing anything different, anytime soon. I like New Jersey. At some point, I wouldn't mind, where I could, like in the wintertime, be somewhere warm. Right. I don't like the snow. Yeah. But no, short of that, I love it there, and I love what we do, and I can't imagine not being a part of this and continue to grow it anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool, man. Well, where can people find and follow you? I know you're not very big on social media. I don't do social media. Very, very minimally.
Oh, gosh.
I saw that you were on LinkedIn because you checked me out the other day.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I do. I literally do nothing. But and I am not good at keeping up with everything. But Steve at Monks, MONKSH for home, I for improvements.com is my email address. And that's pretty much what I do.
Is it monkshi.com altogether?
Yeah.
That's the website.
Yeah, monkshomeimprovements.com. And then it's the design studios, Monks Kitchen and Bath, .com, I think. monksdesignstudio.com. Sorry. I'm like an idiot there.
Well, there you go. If they want to reach out to you, you're up in the New Jersey area.
Yeah, Morristown.
How far out do you go? I mean, you can do a nationwide job if need be? Or?
No, well, so we can, we'll sell. We've had people that live in I don't know, Cape May or Martha's Vineyard, where we'll design it for them and we'll ship the materials to them, but we don't install. So you get it. What we do, because of the fact that New Jersey's so dense, is, we have an estimator that kind of stays local to that town. Yeah. And then the crews and trades stay local to that town and area. So each one of those estimators is kind of like their own company, so to speak, if you will. So, if you go on the website, you can kind of see the areas that we serve, and then we organically grow that the right way.
Yeah.
And kind of scale it slowly when
That's
we make
smart.
sure we got everybody in place. Yeah, thank you.
It's one of the misnomers of business is growing way too, with smartly and, a slow and steady wins the race. So many people want to grow fast and they realize that can collapse you quicker.
Well, everybody's leaving reviews, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not winning the review battle online and providing your client a great experience, you're going to get in trouble quick.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Got to keep that in mind with our new venture that I got to tell you about here.
Yeah.
But anyway, always wonderful to talk to you. It's been way too long.
Likewise, it has.
Yeah. And now we're going to go grab a bite to eat and break some bread. Follow Mr. Steve at monkshi.com. Check it out. If you're in the New Jersey area and you want kitchen, bath remodeling services,
Windows,
renovation.
doors, we do it all.
There we go. Windows, doors, painting still.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go check them out. They're certainly, they're in great hands. They've been doing it long enough to garner great reviews for over 4.7 star reviews kind of thing. Or,
Yeah. No, we work hard for the reviews.
I bet.
Yeah.
Because those are, like I said, very important.
Everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir, for coming out. I really do appreciate it. Guys, check us out at the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. If you like what you heard, give us a review. Give us a good one if you can. Like and share it out and all that fun stuff. Everything is right there at the website. You could even apply to be on the show. Fill out the application. Let me know what you want to talk about, why you want to come on. MMTBP.com. Steve, great having you, buddy.
Thank you, Jim. Great to be here.